There's always that trade-off where a user says, hey, since you installed Defender on my machine, it's got slow. And the question is, how do you prove or disprove that Defender is the cause of performance issues? That actually gets tough when Defender goes out of its way with things like tamper protection to stop us turning it off and then test things how it would be if it weren't there. And that's where Defender for Endpoint troubleshooting mode comes in. Ru Campbell for ThreatScape. I'm going to be joined by Nate Hutchison, MVP, and in this video, we're going to dive into Defender for Endpoint troubleshooting mode, how you can test that and check, hey, is Defender really the cause of my problems or not? And we'll also get into some of the reasons where troubleshooting mode might not actually work for you. So let's get into things. So Nathan, help me clarify. What exactly is the point of troubleshooting mode? What problem are we trying to solve here?
So troubleshooting mode essentially allows you to temporarily override Defender antivirus settings locally on a device without kind of changing your broader policies. And I guess the idea behind that is for troubleshooting. If you are having problems on your machine, whether it's related to performance or a potential misconfiguration, by using troubleshooting mode, you can actually manually change configuration settings locally on the device to test any potential changes before you go and put them into production.
Gotcha. So the example here might be, well, I'm scared that I might ruin the performance of a device, or maybe I've got reports that the performance of a device has slowed down since we rolled out Defender. This is about temporarily removing certain bits of it to get to the root cause.
Exactly. Yeah,
cool.
Exactly that.
Cool. Okay, cool. All right, well, let's have a look then. What do we need to know?
Yeah, so I guess to back up a little bit and just provide a little bit of context for, I guess, the idea behind this video and the idea behind some of the content that we're going to cover. We do a lot of Defender for Endpoint deployments for our clients, and I'm currently in the process of doing one for a client who is piloting MDE, and they're looking to sort of migrate away from another AV or EDR solution. And as part of that kind of user acceptance process, they have anticipated users blaming Defender for sort of potential performance or device issues, which is a fair assumption. Users always tend to default to blaming the new thing, right?
Just don't tell the user that it's happening. Just do it.
Well, yeah, that's a good point. Although saying that, if you in your initial pilot, you want to get that feedback, right?
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Good point.
So look, their ask was essentially, can we have a kill switch? A quick way to disable Defender to either prove or rule out whether it was the cause of a potential problem. So that was the kind of initial discussion. And I guess before getting into the wider topic, it's worth kind of making the point that troubleshooting methodology really matters, because the right approach really depends on the issue. And I guess if I kind of give you an example, a file being blocked, or maybe a file that has, slowed download while it's scanning, you're not necessarily going to jump straight into something like Performance Analyzer, because that's, more of a performance tool, not a blocking or potential misconfiguration. So it's always worth understanding what the users or what the device issue is first, because that context is also going to tell you kind of what to look for and I guess where to look for it. But one of the sort of common threads across any of those scenarios is going to be that you're ultimately going to want to make changes, manual changes, locally on the endpoint to try and find the root cause before you go and make adjustments to any sort of wider policies. So in this particular case, client had gone and created some new policies to effectively disable all of the Defender antivirus features that we were trialing, right? That we were piloting. And the idea behind that was they drop a device into a group, turns off tamper protection at the device level, MDAV features across the board. And that's ultimately where I kind of suggested using troubleshooting mode instead.
Yes.
So, and as we've kind of already clarified, troubleshooting mode allows you to temporarily override those MDAV settings locally on the device. And I guess a key piece that's worth mentioning is that when you enable troubleshooting mode, what it'll essentially do is it'll take a snapshot of the current configuration, which is the the MP preference config, so that you have a baseline. And when you have gone and made all of those local changes and troubleshooting mode finishes, it'll take that original snapshot and then reapply it back to the machine. So that's kind of how the troubleshooting mode element works, I guess.
Makes sense. And I guess the whole reason that you have to go through those hoops rather than just be like, hey, well, I'm just going to remote desktop onto their device and start changing stuff is because, well, tamper protection is going to lock it all down so that normally you can't do any of this stuff until I initiate troubleshooting mode. Is that accurate?
Exactly, yeah. And I guess the whole point for troubleshooting mode is because of tamper protection, right? Yeah, tamper protection stops you from changing those core protection settings.
Right, cool. Okay, right. So that's the underlying reason and principles understood. How do we get the ball rolling here? What's the first thing an admin needs to do?
Yeah, and I guess one thing to consider as well is that, when we're talking about sort of piloting is kind of one thing, but when you're sort of rolling out to production as well, there's, another process to consider. And that is, it doesn't really matter whether the scenario is kind of incident response related, whether it's a line of business app that's maybe gone down, or it could just be like a user, standing over your shoulder, breathing down your neck about performance of their device. One thing that's always worth having is a well-documented, repeatable process ahead of time, because that's going to help take the pressure off you as an administrator. Rather than trying to remember how troubleshooting mode works, what commands to run, and what state you need the endpoint to be in, making sure it's all ready to go ahead of time can kind of help with that. And I guess that's where some of the kind of workflow and the scripts that I've put together recently can potentially help with that.
Okay, cool.
So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to enable troubleshooting mode, right? So you do that from the device overview page in the XDR portal, ellipsis icon, and then turn on troubleshooting mode. So nice and simple. You'll see when I select that, we get a little pop-up. Local admins are going to be able to change configurations, helpful for diagnosing compatibility issues. And this one's important. So this mode will last for 4 hours, after which troubleshooting mode will be deactivated and any changes that we make will be reverted. So we're going to go ahead and submit that. And in my testing, the application of that was incredibly quick. So hopefully it will be this time. And I'm just going to run the get mp computer status command. And sure enough, you'll see here we have troubleshooting mode is enabled. So again, applied pretty quickly.
Very quick.
Some useful information here: troubleshooting start time, troubleshooting end time, and we now know troubleshooting daily max quota and quota left. So
this is a big gotcha. Yeah, let's talk about that.
Yeah, exactly. So you can only enable troubleshooting mode for 4 hours in a single session, but you can actually enable troubleshooting mode for up to 8 hours for a single device over a 24-hour period. So that's essentially twice in a 24-hour period.
And you cannot turn it on, as best we know, right? Sorry, cannot turn it off. So if you turned it on, there's no back out phase from the portal.
Exactly. There's no way to switch it off and save that quota, if you like.
Yes.
Unfortunately. But
gotcha.
Maybe they'll add it. What I'm going to do quickly is I'm just going to verify the configuration that I've got currently on this machine. So we're going to go ahead and just run another get MP preference. He says. Copy that command over there. There we go. Okay, so we can see here my cloud block level is 2, so that's going to be set to high. Extended timeout, average CPU load factor, both set to 50. We can see file hash computation is enabled. Real-time protection is all enabled. So this is essentially pulling down my configuration as it is currently from Intune, right?
Yep.
So now that we've enabled troubleshooting mode, first thing we need to do is disable tamper protection. So we're going to run this command here. And we can actually rerun get MP computer status, and we can now see that tamper protection source, which was previously in tune, is now local, PowerShell
Gotcha.
WMI. So first step, and again, this is kind of when you're going through this troubleshooting process, you want to take a granular approach to this. You might not want to just go for the kill switch approach and just disable everything all in one go. You might want to take a kind of phased approach to that. And that's kind of the idea behind the scripts and the kind of the workflow that I've put together here. So following on through the documentation on my GitHub, the first step is to run step 1 performance tuning. And what this is effectively going to do is it's going to look to change some configuration settings for just a handful of features and settings within MDAV that would be most related, I guess, to performance impact. So things like cloud extended timeout, which we know at the moment I've got that set to 50. So this is going to set that to 10, which is the default. We're going to adjust the average CPU load factor. We're just going to bring it down a little bit. And we're going to do things like disabling file hash computation, which obviously has a pretty big, can have a big performance impact. So the kind of first step here is just to disable or roll back some of those settings that could cause a performance issue.
You're already paying for Microsoft 365, but can you prove it's secure and properly implemented? ThreatScape Overwatch continually assesses your tenant, it finds drifts and gaps, and then it turns them into a clear remediation plan by Microsoft MVPs and experts who will guide you and get their hands dirty the whole way. If you're serious about Microsoft 365 security, you'll find the link in the description.
I'm going to do that first. If you do that in production, make sure you revert it.
Or what I always do is I use if you do dash scope process.
Or dash scope, of course, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm being lazy.
It's one of it's a minefield getting into the whole discussion about why does PowerShell have that and then make it so easy to bypass anyway. But that's a different video, I guess. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. So it's done its job.
Yes. So step 1. So we can see there it's telling me that it has set the average CPU load factor to 20. It's changed the cloud block level to 0, which is just default. And it's done a couple of other bits and pieces. I'm going to rerun this just to confirm. And sure enough, we can see that this has now worked as expected. Cloud block level is 0. Cloud extended timeout has dropped to 10. Enable file hash computation, false. So I guess kind of following that granular step-by-step approach of troubleshooting, you could go ahead and run this script and then check to see, are you still running into issues on the device? Yeah. Continue with that troubleshooting process. It's worth mentioning as well, if the issue that you're seeing is performance related, although kind of walking through using troubleshooting mode is going to be helpful for doing things like adding local exclusions. What you're going to be wanting to sort of lean on there is the Defender for Endpoint Performance Analyzer tool, right? Which is built into the platform and is nice and easy to use. Maybe we'll do a separate video on that. Yeah, we dive into it a little bit deeper.
And I guess if I'm thinking out loud here, the idea is maybe you use them both in conjunction. So, for example, I've used Performance Analyzer, and it's confirming that, hey, there's a lot of latency with a certain process. Now I want to get into the stage where I'm going to dampen what Defender is doing before I start adding exclusions and stuff like that, so I can be more pinpoint accurate about, hey, it's this specific thing that's slowing stuff down.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Okay, I'm with you.
Exactly that. So in the kind of scenario that I gave you at the start, which was the client was actually looking for a kill switch, you might also want something like that to say, okay, we're going to make sure we kind of switch off all of the Defender for Endpoint protection capabilities. And that's kind of where step 2 comes in. So step 1 is disable some of the sort of performance impacting features, but leave core protection settings enabled. Step 2 is the kill switch. So we're going to do things like disabling behavior monitoring, disabling network protection, real-time monitoring, that kind of thing. So that's kind of the idea between step 2. So we go ahead and run that one. And then we can rerun that. And we can see we've even got a pop-up down in the bottom right-hand corner to say virus protection has been disabled. Real-time monitoring, behavior monitoring, network protection, everything's been disabled, right?
Yep.
So if you're looking for a sort of kill switch scenario, you can kind of walk through that process to disable all of those core settings to continue doing that sort of deep dive in terms of your troubleshooting and whatnot. If you are looking to add exclusions, there's kind of a caveat to troubleshooting mode, which I kind of came across, and I have listed it as kind of like a known limitation, I guess, within this GitHub repo, and that is one of the main reasons for using troubleshooting mode, right, is to change these settings locally, but also to be able to add local exclusions prior to putting them into a policy and, you know, pushing them out from whatever management method you're using. If you are enforcing the hide exclusions from local admins setting to your devices, even if you add an exclusion locally with troubleshooting mode enabled, you can't see it when you query it using the get MP preference command.
Gotcha.
So I'll see if I can kind of show you. Actually, I'm not sure if I've got it configured on this VM, but I guess we'll find out.
So the lesson there is that although troubleshooting mode will let you bypass tamper protection, it will not let you bypass that exclusion hiding setting for local admins.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the reason for that is because it locks down access to the registry, right? I think that's what it does.
Okay. So it's two separate things. Roger.
Yeah, exactly. So you can still add, in my testing, you can still add exclusions locally. So you can do the add MP preference and add the exclusion in there. But when you try and query it, say, hey, has this exclusion actually applied? You wouldn't know. You just get this administrators are not allowed to view exclusion. So the only way around that, at least that I'm aware of, is you would have to drop a device into a group that then, you know, changes that configuration via policy, whether that's, you know, GPO or Intune. So yeah, make sure there's no typos when you're adding your exclusions for troubleshooting.
Cool. That makes sense. And then so after you've gone through this whole process, is the point here by now I've kind of established, hey, Defender maybe was or wasn't the root cause of my trouble. I just write it out now basically, and I can just let Defender revert back to the snapshot, right? I don't have to go in and change it manually, do I?
Yeah, so you definitely don't have to. You don't have to change it manually because obviously when that troubleshooting mode ends, it's already taken a snapshot of the MP preference configuration, so it'll just revert it. But I guess you could absolutely, run a set MP preference just to revert those back to whatever your sort of known good configuration looks like. If you've finished your troubleshooting and you're concerned that maybe there's a couple of hours delay before troubleshooting mode disables, you might want to manually force those back on with a set MP preference.
Gotcha. Makes sense.
So yeah.
Cool. Okay. And folks, if they want to find this script, I guess it's on GitHub, so they could fork this and do what they wanted with it, I guess. Yeah. And it's funny because
it's fairly straightforward and simple.
I'm already thinking about kind of cool ideas you could throw at it, like and never mind. That's something for a GitHub Copilot to take care of. Cool. Yeah. Awesome. All right. Well, listen, I think that's been very informative for me. I mean, at least in terms of understanding, after I've done troubleshooting mode, what are some of the reasonable things I might actually use while I'm in troubleshooting mode? So that makes a lot of sense. Anything else folks need to know before we wrap up?
No, I don't think so.
Cool. Awesome. All right. Well, that was nice and simple. Nathan, always a pleasure to talk to you. Folks, make sure you like the video if it was informative for you, and leave us a comment with anything else you want to learn about Defender for Endpoint. And we'll catch you soon. Cheers.